Well, well, well. Here we are again. Back at it. Sean and Cass, Very 8 Podcast. Welcome. Join us for more on patreon.com/Church of Chill. Get that out of the way up top. We're going to do a really cool second part talking about some stuff we can't talk about on here.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes.
Well, yeah. You get a little bit more personal. You get a little bit more of us if you give us $2 a month. Plus a bunch of music mixes and such.
Yeah, 200 plus music mixes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
It's awesome. I love starting a gigantic project like that and then looking back and being like, I'm still doing that project. When I first started Church of Chill, I was like, I have to do at least 400 of these for it to even be a thing.
Yeah, we have the one of Ramin's books, like catalogs of all his, I don't know what you call them, like visual cartoon meme things. Anyway, one of them was like, just throw time at it, and it's like this giant art project, and you just like, oh, we got to just throw time at it. And I love that kind of thinking about art in that way, because when you commit to art and then throw time at it, you have something that you can like look back on and be like, whoa, 200 episodes. Whoa, look how big this sculpture's gotten. Yeah. Look at how many photos I've taken. You know, you got to put in your 10,000 hours.
Yeah, you make a deal with time. There's a Jeffrey Lewis song called Time Trades. And you make a deal with time and you say, all right, I'll work with you to get really good at something. That's what I'll use time to do. I'll get good at things. And that's kind of, it feels like what we're here to do. Get good at things.
And we have a lot of time. And you can either...
we do and we don't. That's a tough one.
Do we have a lot of time or do we have no time?
We have a lot of time in the cosmic sense. Like our soul has infinite amount of time to do its work. But Cass doesn't. That sucks.
That said, like if you're really there for a minute's a lot longer than if you're not there.
Yeah.
So if you have a minute focused on one thing,
you
can kind of like stretch out time.
Well, yeah, that's another deal you can make with it. It feels like the more focus you bring to a moment, the longer it is. So if you want to be here for a long time, focus up. You know, like the only fucking person I think about now is Leonardo da Vinci ever since we watched Ken Burns' documentary on him.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Damn. One of the all-time great artists.
Yeah, he had one line that we were like, that was good. And I was like, what did he basically say? YOLO? And it was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't YOLO. It was more, he was saying how the experience of life when you're younger will keep you sane in your elder years, you know, knowing that you lived a full life, something to that effect. It'll give you a lot to consider. Yeah. And that's how I think about like the psychedelic trips or whatever, is like, it might be a lot to absorb and integrate at this age, but like I'll now have that experience to kind of look back on. And we were kind of talking earlier, you were like, I'm still integrating the movie.
Oh, Stalker? Oh, that's part of our Patreon now. We're doing a film club. We're meeting this Sunday at 8 p.m. to talk about the Tarovsky 1979 Russian classic Stalker.
Yeah, it's great when anyone says, let's do something. We're like, okay, we'll do it.
We'll do it now.
It usually requires someone being like, I want to do that. And we're like, yeah, we'll do it.
Anytime someone from the community is like, we should do something, I'm like, sure, we'll do it right now. So
yeah,
that's this week's assignment. Watch Stalker and be ready to talk about it Sunday at 8 p.m. And we'll do this each Sunday.
Which is available on YouTube for free and stuff.
Yeah, that film.
But what you were saying is, I'm still digesting Stalker from when I watched it.
Half your life ago.
When
I was 21 years old.
And we've seen it since then, but you just are always, we have that movie to forever digest.
Yeah. Well, and, I think he had a Da Vinci-esque approach, I think, to his work. Very much. Tarovsky.
In what way?
Paid attention to detail, paid attention to subtleties about the human spirit and how to tell stories with locked off frames, which Tarovsky uses a lot of. And I could go on and on about that stuff. I'll save it for the film club, but basically, Da Vinci was a mad genius and maybe one of the best artists of all time. And he only did 20 paintings and only 10 of them were finished. Isn't that wild? like to do 10 paintings, and one of them is the Mona Lisa. So one of them is the most famous work of art.
The Last
so far
Supper
yet.
is one of them.
The Last Supper is one of them. The Last Supper was a mural that he got commissioned to paint, like in the cafeteria of some monastery, you know. So some monks could look at it who were holding noble silence. And so they could look at and contemplate this painting while they ate. And that's what he was commissioned to do. Back in the day, it was like basically like the churches were the people commissioning a lot of the artwork. And yeah, he just blew my mind with how ahead of his time he was, and thoroughly impressed.
Yeah, one of the things we said is we're like, oh, it seems like all great artists have a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah.
You know, he because he was a bastard child or whatever.
He was a bastard child.
He wasn't allowed to go to university, so he had to be, you know, he had a lot of questions, and maybe the chip on his shoulder of like not being able to go to school is like, well, I have to do this for myself. This like,
right.
And he is probably one of the most curious people.
Yeah.
In historic record.
And I think that's what made him one of the greatest artists of all time. You know, he was locked out of university and higher education because of his standing in his class. So he actually wore that as a point of pride the rest of his life. Like, he would brag to people that he didn't go to engineering school, but he could fix their problems. He would brag to people that he was never classically trained in this thing or that. And the way that he figured out how to do everything was by fucking focusing up and just sitting there, you know. And we can learn from that.
Like experiments, like nonstop experimenting.
Beyond experiments. I mean, just sitting there and staring at a tree.
Or a bird.
Or a bird and being like...
Or a flame.
How does it work? Well, that's what he would do at night. During the day, he would go out and he would just observe things and he would draw them. And I think that him wanting to be a better artist... drew him to want to understand the natural world more. And I feel like something kind of mystical happened in that process where he kind of merged with it, because he became such an astute translator of what he was seeing that, like, he was hundreds of years ahead of his time. He was talking about stuff about gravity before Newton. He was talking about stuff that, like, it wasn't until Einstein that we started talking about again.
Or human flight.
Human flight, 400 years before anyone was able to pull it off. He was figuring out ways that we could do it. And all of it came from, like, the motherfucker would just go off by himself and just, like, sit in nature and stare at things and figure out.
Take copious notes.
How does gravity work? How long does it take a thing to fall down? And he was obsessed with, like, how the light would hit things. What is light doing when it hits human skin? You know, when I'm illustrating something, I have to use lines, but lines don't really exist in forms and figures out in the real world. So, like, he would stare at things and take them in and figure out. He would go so much deeper into their nature, I think, than most people. Mm-hmm. And I think it gave him like spiritual abilities. And it was, I think it was really cool. So, you know, I think whenever you're in doubt, just slow down, go fucking straight Da Vinci mode. Just sit somewhere and observe something. You know, he could sit here and observe this Christmas tree and write volumes about it. And he wouldn't even write it normally. He was left-handed and he didn't want to smear the ink, so he would write mirror style.
Yeah.
Isn't that
Where
insane?
you'd have to read it in a mirror.
You'd have to hold it up to a mirror to be able to read it. So all of his writings, which none of them were ever published in his lifetime, this was just stuff he did.
Well,
Isn't that fucking crazy? This is one guy.
No, he's crazy. But I love, not only does he, like, witness the present and take notes or whatever, but contemplating the past, like contemplating what was it like for all people involved in Jesus's Last Supper, contemplating, you know, the energy around Mary and Anne and...
Well, the Last Supper, like he would take an art commission and think about it completely different. You know, he would. You know how many commissions of the Last Supper there's been throughout history? Look at them all, but his really stands out because his is right at that moment, and he says it's like in the 2 to 3 seconds where Jesus has just told his disciples that one of you will betray me, and seeing every different reaction from all of the 13 people in the room, the landscape behind them, the details about things, like, it's insane. You could stare at this thing forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. And I want to do that with films.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want them to, like, that's what I really want to incorporate. Or, I mean, like, look, it makes me inspired, but also kind of a little relieved. Because I'm like, I have something in common with this guy.
Mm. Well, I think there's like the evergreen nature to it, though, like in the sense of that there's like a lot to look at. There's a lot of layers.
Just follow your curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things in life that's going to take you on a journey that is all your own. So follow your curiosity.
Right.
Start to figure out, what arises your passions, and go further into those things than you've ever imagined before. Look deeper into those things than you've ever imagined before.
Yeah, I like to follow my enthusiasm.
Absolutely.
Like, what is it that makes me excited right now? And for me, it changes a lot.
Yeah.
But it's okay, because I'm always enjoying what I'm doing, because I'm doing what I'm enthusiastic about.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know you're going to think this is bullshit, and maybe the people hearing it will think it, but Cass is my favorite artist. You and really have become so. I don't think it's always been that way, but like definitely the past few years when you really started being like, I want to get better at painting. You blew me away. It blew me away how quickly you were able to get so good at painting and figure out a style that you like. And you're like, I want to paint animals with cute eyes. Like, what can I tell you? It's what I've wanted to do since I'm a little girl. When I look at all your art that's around this house, it's all like this stuff you made when you were a little girl. It all is just animals with cute eyes. And you got so good at that. And then you got so good at pottery. And you got so good at, you just like, you keep picking things up. And every time you touch something, it's like magnificently better. So you've become my favorite artist because I get to watch the process of that happening, and it's really cool.
Well, that's sweet, but it's okay because it's like you're making art and everything, so it's okay. I have a lot, like if I just stuck with painting, like where I could go with painting would be like insane. If any person just stuck with one thing like painting, it would be like miraculous to see how evolution could take place. But when you're kind of like a shallow, whatever, I'll call myself a shallow artist, and that I'm like, oh, I'll do this. I get so much satisfaction of being like, oh, well, this is how I use crayons,
Yeah.
Or this is what Cass would do with a Sharpie,
Of course, yeah.
And then you're like, that's cool. Like that's what I would do.
Yeah.
Kind of like I get to bear witness to what I do too.
That's why I love watching you make art and your evolution of art and your approach to different formats and.
Well, everyone has it. It's like a signature. It's like a fingerprint. Like no two people would doodle exactly the same.
Mm. Right.
But I like what the kind of art you make because you've like commit yourself to like the big painting.
Yeah.
You're like, I'll do 7 of these, but there'll be, 400 episodes or whatever.
Yeah. I don't even know. I don't know. I can't really speak to my own thing. All I know is, one thing that when I watch this Da Vinci thing and when I watch interviews with Ken Burns, who made the Da Vinci documentary, I'm like, thank God we have a practice of following our curiosity, because it's going to change along with everything else. And I have like a container for it. I have like a cinematic container for my curiosities. And I think like that's like, my toolbox. Like I know how to use my tools when a new passion arises, and it's going to fit in that cinematic container, if that makes any sense. But
I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think if you have any curiosity, you'll never be bored. Because you're like, oh, I just need to learn how to get better at this. Like I'm watching a million knitting videos, or now I'm learning how to build myself a little house in the woods.
Oh, that's your new thing?
Yeah, it's my new thing.
That's cool.
Because why not? Why not know how to do it and what you would do and think about it? It's like I always played house as a kid. I do think alternative ways of like living with the earth and in the world, like I think we need a lot more than we do.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm not saying I'd live full time in a little shed that I build, but like to to allow yourself to like have a place in the forest for solace that's like all yours, like a, you know how Virginia Woolf says you should have a room of your own, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
A little cabin of your own out in the forest.
Yeah, no one needs to know about it. I could probably do it on...
What is it called? A hermitage or something?
Yeah.
You need one. I guess every human needs one.
Yeah, totally.
I think that's cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, build it up. And it's like, it really should be like your little own like portal potty, you know, like only you can fit in there. Only like it's only appropriate for you to go do your work. No one could visit you in there.
I love that portal potty.
Come on.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Okay.
Like...
that's what gets you.
Yeah.
Da Vinci Mode.
The hell is that?
I don't know. Yeah, I could do puns. I could sit here and do puns for you if they make you laugh. I'll do anything. What is that?
I want it to be something. Let
me get this.
Well, it's like the deal of with time is like happening whether or not we acknowledge it or not. You know what I mean? You've made a deal with time. You can either be like considerate and conscious about it or not, and time will do you. Like, do you want to be doing time or do you want time to be doing you? That's kind of feels like, and it's okay because it goes back and forth and it's a little bit of both, and no one needs to be so rigid, but it's nice that when we do have this free time where you're not working or sleeping or doing like the basic things, to be like, okay, this is my time. Am I going to give it away to an app or to an algorithm, or am I going to say this is my time, and how do I want to spend that time, and how do I want to like zoom out and look at what's even possible with that time? And if I think about like what Ramin says, or other people, are like what we're talking about is like, okay, if I have a vision for that time and I throw time at it, all of a sudden I'll have like I could have a temple, you know, whether it's a temple of in your spirit, or a giant whatever, even something small.
Yeah, I mean, the best way I can speak to it from a personal sense is like, I'm the last motherfucker in the world that should have a filmography like I do. Like,
right.
Really, didn't come from money and didn't have connections. You seem to need both those things to operate in the film world, at least when I was trying to break into it. No one gave me permission, and in fact, I was getting kind of the opposite. Almost the opposite of permission to do it.
Kind of like, what do you remember? What was the energy surrounding it?
Well, when you're starting off, no one gives a fuck.
Right.
And it's kind of great because you kind of can figure out how to make them give a fuck, and it's up to you. And like, I liked that clean slate. I liked I don't have the expectation of like having a filmmaker uncle or father or somebody that, you know, passed me the baton or gave me the in or whatever. Like, everything that I was doing in this field felt like, you know, it was from me and from my talents. And no one was ever going to tell me to do it or give me permission to do it or pat me on the back even for doing it. So I had to be a little bit punk rock about it, a lot punk rock about it. And thank God I grew up like worshiping bands like Youth Brigade and Minor Threat, like, you know, bands that were like, let's not only play music, but let's support the scene by putting out records. Like let's start a record label, and like Fat Mike from NoFX. So like countless people have done it, but like I had to kind of approach my filmmaking career the same way, because it was clear that if I wanted to make the films that I wanted to make, nobody was going to fund them, or help wasn't on the way. I say this all the time.
Right.
It's great. That was kind of great. I spent 5 seconds feeling bad for myself when I graduated college and like didn't know what to do. But then you figure it out. You figure it out one thing at a time, and now here I am, like 20 years later. 20 years later.
Yeah.
Rad. 20. I started off in 2004 doing all this.
In a way, you got lucky, but in a way, you made your own luck, because I think you attribute like your career taking off or like being able to make money on this path because some guy came in and saw you at the deli where you worked messing around with your video camera. So like you spent time devoting to your passion and someone took notice and was like, oh, I could give you could, help me edit or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You make your own luck in this lifetime.
You can definitely, there's a little bit of luck. We're definitely got some astrology going on.
That's
some
why
privileges going on.
Well, yeah, definitely. And Mare always told us that. She was like, don't take for granted how easy it is for you guys to have audience. That's hard for other people, and it had something to do with our fucking 8th house or something. I don't know. I'm sorry. We used to be kind of an astrology podcast. And like, I don't know what we are now. Now we're just like rambling in puns.
Da Vinci Mode. What's that?
What is that?
Well, I know what Da Vinci is and I know what a chode is.
Oh my God. But yeah. Like Mary used to say, like that, don't take for granted that there's audience. And like the first thing I made had audience. So fucking thank God. Thank God for that. Because I think that's the thing that that's like a huge barrier to entry for people, is they're scared to put it out, and then when they do, they might not experience the success that they maybe imagined for something. And that came from me. I've been humbled many times. Many times. It wasn't on the first one though, believe it or not.
Well, I think even if I don't know if the aim needs to always be like audience or that like a certain, like I think throwing time at something, you're like, okay, I'm going to commit to trying this thing. Maybe halfway through doing it, you like realize, well, you know why I thought I liked this thing? It was because of this. And I would actually much more in doing this. It's like you got to do something for it to inform something to figure out the next step. But if you don't get on the treadmill, you don't know where you're going to, if you don't get on the Stairmaster, who knows where you're going to go? And that's the worst analogy because the Stairmaster, you go nowhere, but.
Yeah. Well, or where are we going?
Well, if you get on, you got to do the first step of the mountain in order to see the view.
Yeah.
So that's better analogy.
I guess.
They're both kind of weak. We're not an analogy podcast.
We can be sometimes, though.
Sometimes.
At our finest. If you were to take an acid today, you might have something.
Yeah, that's true.
You skipped your dose.
I did. I'm on a little edible.
What were we just saying?
Da Vinci Mode?
No, you fucker. No, right after that, you were just saying something.
Taking the first step and how, by putting time towards something, it allows it to evolve. And you have to like do it. You have to do like you have to do it because it lets you learn so much. I think the worst thing is to say, one day I'll do that thing, and when I do, my life will be XYZ. But you don't know that your life will be XYZ. That's why you have to do the one thing that you think is going to lead your life to where you think it's going to lead, because you can't live in the comfortable bubble of like, yeah, one day I'll get my act together to do that thing, and then that's the time. Like, you can almost look at a timeline, a parallel timeline, and be like, well, if only I'd start this, when I start this podcast, then everything will be right, or when I do this thing, everything will be right. So many
would-be great podcasters and artists and filmmakers approach me with that kind of energy.
Yeah, no, and it's natural energy to have. It's easy to allow things to scare you off from doing stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah. All I can say in those moments is like, damn, you have much more natural talent than me. Thank God this fear is holding you back. Otherwise, nobody would ever even notice what I'm doing. For some reason, I don't have the fear of putting something out.
Yeah, so, you're like, it allows people who are just...
Well, that's what allowed me to get better. If I have gotten better, I think that's what has allowed me to get better at filmmaking, and understanding how to use cinema.
Well, the commitment, and also the commitment, which I like, is that you're like, well, this is where I was when I made this one. I'm not going to hold on to this one and keep it in my back pocket until I'm the person who would make this film better. I'll make the next film better. Well,
that's how you get that. That's how you get it out. Like, we went and filmed American Juggalo. What was I going to do with that footage other than go make the film? I went and made the film. It took us 4 days of editing. It took us 4 days of shooting and 4 days of editing. And we had something that felt like the final film like 2 days in. And then you sit with it. And then something happens where it scratched the itch, And that's all it is for me. And I think that sometimes can be what curiosity is. That your soul has an itch, and it's really a deep one. And you're like, it's going to take years, maybe months, to scratch that itch. And, so it starts with like, the title. I remember being like, oh, that's a funny title for a movie, American Juggalo. That would be such a funny title. Talk about a play on words.
With American Gigolo.
Yeah.
The Robert Gere. Or Richard
Gere,
sorry.
Paul Schrader film, from 1980. American Gigolo. And I just thought American Juggalo would be just a funny name. So somewhere deep down there's an itch. And it gets itchier. And you're like, oh, I need to scratch that. And then I remember telling you, and you were like, fuck yeah, it's on, we're making that. And then we told Hillary and Jeff, who shot it. And then it gets very itchy. And then you're like, okay, how are we going to do this? And it really, that's what's driving everything, is this curiosity of like, what is that? What is American Juggalo? And I can't scratch that itch, not only till it's finished in the edit room, till it's out. And once it's out, I feel like, okay, cool. And then it's like my mind switches to like, what's the next itch I need to scratch?
You get the next itch while you're making the last one.
Totally. But just the inklings where it's not even something that needs to be acknowledged yet. It's not begging for me to scratch it yet. It's just a far off, like it's a little, like, as they say, a gleam in my eye.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I remember Wild Magic was like a gleam in our eye when we were making Sweet Nothing.
Yeah.
Which was 2018. We started being like, oh, there's a movie Wild Magic in our future. What would that be? And that now, like 6 years later, the film's done, and we're going to see where we put it out and how to get people to see it. I'm just right now we're figuring out the best way to get people to see it. But that's all I can say is like follow that curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
Know that your soul, acknowledge, at least admit it to yourself, even if you're never going to do anything about it, that your soul has itches that need to be scratched, and that some of those itches are so deep that they're going to take years of commitment to a craft to get to. And that's what I could say to my fellow artists out there is don't give up on that. Because, man, if you could have, and if you've been listening to this podcast for a long time, if you could bear witness to the highs and lows of this, of having a career in art where you don't have a plan B, where there's nothing else to fall back on, where you're just like, we're devoting ourselves to this, whether we're financially successful at it or not, whether there's audience or not. We want to make these things, and we want to work with top tier collaborators like Kathy Gatto editing, Hillary Spira shooting, Isaac Bauman, like top tier. Drew. Oh my God. Drew Sacro out of Philadelphia. Sirocco out of Philadelphia. My dear friend who shot American Sunset and The Family Trip, and a bunch of commercials and music videos, shot the Kurt Weill music videos with us. Like, I live to collaborate with these people and figure out what we can do together to capture light, make light.
Yeah, I think you were, I haven't listened yet, but you were very inspired by the Ken Burns Neil Brennan and hearing his...
Oh, I was crying.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, Ken Burns is an all-timer. I mean, this is a form that's only existed for like really like 100 years,
right?
Less, when it started getting good. You know what I mean? Like when people started being like, all right, let's get good at this. It's pretty much since like, say liberally, since like the mid 60s. Ken Burns started making films around then. And he's still doing them. He's 71 years old, and he's left such a mark on the form that like there's Ken Burns effect. That means to like push in on a still, or to tilt up, or to tilt down, or whatever. It's like all these things because he was taking on stories about American history that had no photo or video or anything. They just have written accounts. So he would have to figure out how to tell a story with a tilt, you know, and it might be it might be a toddler with a holster and two guns during the Civil War, and he's like, you know, there's a story to be told by starting on the face and tilting down and revealing those guns. There's another story to be told by starting on the guns and revealing the face. And like, just to hear somebody, like, it's just like, oh my God, there's someone else out there like me.
Yeah.
You know? Because like, when I was coming up, there wasn't podcasts, so you didn't hear these guys like freely talking about how they make decisions and arrive at things, and like, it just made me feel a part of the human race. And when he talks about his approach to films and what he loves about them, and you know, he quotes Twain in there and says like, you know, how people say history repeats itself, but it doesn't really repeat itself. It rhymes with itself. So, you know, him spending years on a project about the Civil War actually holds great importance today. And you'd have to watch it now to kind of see why. And I think that's really cool. You know, he tells stories of American history and now world history with Da Vinci that help us see ourselves in the here and now. And I think one of the things that he said was, you know, he talked about, and it's something we talk about all the time. And I think when you're doing this, when you're really doing this and you're committing yourself to it, you can't help but talk about the generosity of your subjects and how them sharing these moments and these stories with you really goes a long way in helping other people feel part of the human race and dealing with their grief. And he talks about how in his Vietnam series, which is one of the best things I've ever seen. It came out in 2017. Ken Burns' Vietnam. It's a 10-episode thing. But at one point, he spoke to a very elderly woman who had lost a son in the war.
Yeah.
And she just talks about the moment she just saw the black car pull into the driveway and two uniformed officials and a priest got out, and just the sound of the doors slamming, knowing what they were coming to tell her, and the long walk from the car to the thing. And she described every detail of this. And he's like, we didn't ask her to do that. She didn't have to do that. She did it. And how many moments have we had like that with people? And by doing that, she was able to share with all the other mothers that have been through that or may go through that what it's like. And it helps expand people's circle of compassion. It helps people see themselves in each other. It helps people see the true cost of war and what violence is from such a human perspective. And that's what he says. He says, I use this medium to communicate with the dead. I use this medium. I'm trying to talk to my mother. She died when he was 11.
I don't know if he talked about this in the interview because I haven't heard it yet, but I read an interview with him, and where he talked about he decided he wanted to make movies when he saw, because his mom had died when he was 11, and so his father was maybe a little stoic after that, and he saw his dad watch a movie, and it didn't mention what movie, but then break down weeping.
Yeah.
And that was the only time he had seen him cry.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, like the cinema has this power to like affect and unlock all these emotions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a year after his mother died. They saw a movie together, and he looked over and he saw his father cry for the first time ever. And look, fucking Jesus, if I can't relate with that shit. My parents, my dad, the original television man, television made me who I am. My parents love TV and movies, and it's when I see them moved, it's when I see them focused. So yeah, of course I'm drawn to this medium that seems to get adults' attention and be able to move energy and emotions that the death of their wife couldn't fucking shake loose.
Yeah.
So you really never know, especially for us, like when we're out there and you see someone in the world, if you go talk to them and you get their story, like really what that's doing for some unknown soul that's going to eventually see it one day. And I just love that we're like collecting all these personalities and like little moments, little just shared present moments with people that people can share in for years to come. Like that's That's like such that makes life worth living for me right now. Yeah. Yeah. And like, you know, hearing Ken Burns speak about the craft, and hearing Errol Morris or Ross McElwee or Les Blank in more of our kind of way speak about this craft and documentary, like to me they're the wise sages of society today. Even Michael Moore, they can speak to humanity from a whole different place, and I hope I'm part of this. I really do want to be part of this. This is what I'm in service to in my life, is that carrying on that tradition of understanding humans in just deeper and deeper ways, and really showing up for it and being able to articulate things about it when asked. But for the most part, I would love to be able to say my work speaks for itself. I think most people would love to say that I wouldn't need to be accompanied with a Q&A or me jabbering on a podcast for fucking 500 episodes. But I don't know. It helps me. I like that. I like hearing what Paul Thomas Anderson says about why he made certain decisions, and you know how Scorsese approached this, or why he was inspired to go towards that story. And I mean, the Ken Burns interview on Neil Brennan probably moved me more than any interview or podcast I've ever seen, because it was almost like tailor-made for me. Neil Brennan, who I love, he loves us, and
he shared Family Trip, which was cool.
Yeah, Neil Brennan was the homie for sharing Family Trip with people, but maybe he'll share it with Ken Burns. We got to get in with him. He went to your same school. He was like the second graduating class.
Yep.
Of Hampshire College.
Yeah, he spoke at my graduation.
Fucking incredible. But do you know what I mean? Like when people have devoted their life to interviewing people and hearing people's stories and trying to tell stories about humanity and our past, like how they age like fine wine. They're people you want to be around. They're people you're drawn to. You know, you want to hear them talk. You want to get them excited and talking about their passions and some of the things, and just the fact that he's like can draw from like any emotion, and I'm starting to get there. I hope any emotion you can think of a corresponding moment from one of your films that you can draw from and say, man, yeah, that's like when this person told me about their father dying and how much it affected them, and then they started crying. Like, you know, it's cool to share that, and see other filmmakers be able to speak to that. And we live in a really cool time for art.
Yeah, and it's cool because it's, there's still, like, as much as our attention has gotten fragmented, there's spaces for, a 4-hour thing on Da Vinci, or 7 episodes, or a 2-hour long conversation, or whatever it is.
Yeah, like Adam Curtis's films are like, how long are those?
3.5 hours or something.
More. I mean, like he'll have an 8-hour thing. Here's my 8-hour thing about the fall of the Soviet Union and how it affected media hypnosis, and it's 8 hours, and it's all stock footage and narration, and I'm captivated by it. So I think people have probably always complained about attention spans going down generation by generation, and it's probably always been true. But then there's always been the anomalies, the things that cut through,
Well, you were like, part of the reason you were telling me, because I have yet to listen, that part of the motivator for Ken Burns to do like the Civil War series was how or the World War II, is how miseducated people in our country are about history and that sort of stuff. And not everyone learns well in a school setting or out of a textbook or whatever.
Yeah, no, I learn much better from the Ken Burns or Ken Burns-esque approach to teaching about something or storytelling.
Like
I learn much more from that. Yeah.
Me too.
Well, you know why? Because it's sprinkled with emotion.
Mm-hmm.
That's why. Because I feel like for me, it absorbs when I can feel it.
Yeah, it's not just that it's visual, it's that you can feel it.
I can remember a story and recite it like it's my own if the person that told me it is infusing it with feeling and emotion. If they're taking me there, it's imbuing on something more than my brain.
So
it's hitting me in the heart space, and I can carry that on.
Well, I've always thought of you as someone who has a photographic memory, but are most of your memories locked in because you have a corresponding emotion with those
definitely
memories?
Yeah, of course.
Because you'll tell me like our first date, like you'll like be able to paint the scene, or
yeah, I can remember it vividly, and I can recall things vividly that maybe I don't even think I know about if I remember a story around it. So it all might be triggered on different categories of emotions.
Scent's a real strong one. Scent and taste are also strong ones for people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe one day we'll have smell-o-vision.
Well, they've tried that. That exists. I don't have anything to do with that.
The toxic chemicals.
Yeah, I want nothing to do with the world of artificial scents. Because if you don't know, and I don't want anyone to suffer from this, if you don't know, there's so much poison hidden in fragrances, and they don't have to list it in the ingredients. So don't get anything that has like
fragrance.
Yeah.
Anything that smells like it has something.
Anything. Yeah. When we'll rent Airbnbs and we'll go in there. God, sometimes they'll put those Glade plugins.
Yeah, that's our first.
It's basically them saying, "Enjoy your migraine headache for me." So I have to go in, and not only do we have to unplug them, we have to put them outside
and air it out.
We have to open every single thing to air the place out. People think that they're doing the right thing, and I understand what they're trying to do, but it's like, you're poisoning the air around us. You're fucking up my adenoids.
Endocrine disruptors.
Yeah, what the hell are you doing? Yeah. Yes, man. So, the journey continues. Very much so. And I like when I can watch something that renews my inspiration, which we try to do every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to see what happens with this film club. Oh,
yeah, definitely. Well, I'm treating the film club kind of like film school. It's a syllabus. Like it's gonna one thing's gonna lead to another. Look, Stalker is the required watching for this week, but there's like 10 little films that can splinter off that could occupy your mind for a while. That could all kind of surrounding that same vibe. Stalker's like a dark Wizard of Oz. It's kind of got a similar thing, but so Stalker will lead to the next one, and then that'll lead to the next one, and it'll lead to the next one, and hopefully it'll provide not only a little bit of an education so you can sound cool when you talk about films, but for me, what it did for me seeing these films so young was like a blossoming of my curiosity, and say, whoa, it's like finding great bands. Stalker is like stumbling across Television, the band. Where you're like, what the fuck? Whoa. This is kind of like an amalgamation of all my favorite things. It's so sweet, and it's so its own thing, So, yeah. Film club is cool because it's more like, it's an excuse to talk about philosophy, pretty much.
Yeah, it can get pretty existential.
Well, and I think those are the films we're going to lean towards. And that's where I first saw Stalker was in a philosophy on film class.
That's cool.
Yeah. But I have some other bangers up my sleeve that I'm like, we'll have fun with. And I know I did a steep barrier to entry. It's kind of to weed out and find the real ones. It's like, if you watch Stalker and show up to this thing, you're in for the time of your life. You're in for the time of your life.
It's when I saw it, I was like, this is like up there as my favorite movie.
Absolutely. Same thing I thought. And it's so funny because half the theater cleared out when we were seeing it. Remember that?
Oh my God.
Remember?
Yeah. People couldn't handle it.
They couldn't handle it.
But I think it's like psychedelic. And I think it's big inspo because I was like, they did a lot with a little.
Yeah.
And then you're like, as filmmakers who like flirt with the idea of maybe doing a narrative one day, we're like, oh, you don't need all the bells and whistles to tell a very compelling story.
No, not at all. Not at all. No. It's all imbued with the spirit of the filmmakers. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. You don't need all the fancy stuff. It's whoever the filmmakers are, including the actors, including the cinematographers, the sound people, the mixers, colorists, all of that stuff. That's what you're feeling when something's really working. That's what you're feeling. Those craftsmen and women are helping you tap into a primordial vibration that helps you align you with humanity a little bit better. It's so cool. It's so cool. And like, look, the homies like Da Vinci and his predecessors and the people that came in between, they're all doing the same thing. They were all doing the same thing.
Wait, what are you saying? They're doing what?
Art is to reach out to people and say, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be okay. These things have been felt. These things are being processed. And we're going through something together. And there's people that have experienced this before and these emotions. And we're here with artistic expressions to make you feel a little bit more at home.
Mm.
That's what I want to do.
I like that.
Yeah, to make you feel a little bit more at home. And sometimes what you can do when you're really good is expand people's definition of what home is.
Mm.
You know, you weasel your way in there into the subconscious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's such a powerful form. Because it's like, it barely feels like an interpretation. Painting is interpretive. All these other art forms are so interpretive. This barely feels interpretive. I know it is because I'm behind the scenes and I know how things work and I know what we're doing and I know what we're doing to amplify emotions and all of that kind of thing. And the way you edit stuff is designed to tell a story and take a person on a ride. But yeah, I just want to take part in that tradition of making people feel a little bit more at home in their experience here. And maybe that's by taking you to a far out place and being like, it's okay. They're okay. If they're okay, you're okay, right? Come on. Let's get real.
I like that.
Try to find the whole spectrum of human emotions within one film, within one container, within one subject, maybe within one interview. These are things like I get very fascinated with and challenged by.
The whole world in a grain of sand.
Yes, exactly.
Because we're in a fractal universe.
I get very intrigued by that, and that's kind of the dragon I'm chasing. And it's kind of that itch that can never be scratched, which will keep me doing this in a way.
Yeah, because you're looking for that, like, diamond encrusted moment that says everything is everything.
Yeah, and no, I'm looking for it, and not only am I looking for it, I've found it so many times. I've found it every time I'm looking for it, and it always helps me, and it always helps move my soul's evolution forward. To feel someone, to spend time with them, to go to people's personal spaces with no judgment, and see how people react to that. And when they let their guard down, what they want to say, what they want to share with the world. It's such an honor. It's so cool. And it's helped me learn so much. And, you know, when we started talking about this, you know, take the first step and you got to start climbing the mountain to get to the view. But like, I think part of like, if we want to gain inspiration from Da Vinci is like, now, the beginning part of that process, before you start scaling the mountain, this and that, is go fucking straight up to Vinci mode. Sit still, listen. Just listen. There's a path for you.
Well,
there's something that lights your furnace and keeps it burning. And it's easy to distract and not really kind of understand what that is. But it's there. So all you got to do is go Da Vinci mode. Stare at something for a while. Stare at something and inevitably you will see your nature in it. And this is what starts a process.
Well, that's why I love like the form of education where a kid just follows their own curiosity, you know, where it's like, oh, you want to find like we don't even need to put kids. I don't know what kids need. First off, I don't know what kids need, but I like this idea that a kid could lead to their own education by just being like, well, I like dinosaurs. Okay. And then what did they eat? Okay, of what they ate, let's look at this leaf. This leaf is like a mirror of the larger tree.
Yeah. That's how you would homeschool a little homie.
Totally.
It's like okay, what's your thing? Like for little guys, it's probably dinosaurs is one of there's things that kids get obsessed with. It's like, okay, let's use that to learn about everything.
Well, and
if someone would have taught me about life through baseball, I would have fucking known everything by the time I was like 10 years old.
Right, because you would have cared, and it would have been like physics.
I had a book called The Physics of Baseball, and I read it, and I understood physics.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. And this was at like 10 years old. This was so far beyond me. And my other books were like Mickey Mantle's autobiography. Awesome. I read a book about the pitcher Dave Dravecky, who had the first, like, his arm fell off in the middle of a fucking game throwing a pitch. He just threw his arm off, and he came back.
In the game?
No. No.
It wasn't like a shoulder pop back in.
No, it was the most like devastating on-field injury a pitcher had ever sustained, and he came back, and like this is the stuff I would read when I was like 10, 11 years old. But I was learning so much about, like, in that case, like human perseverance.
Right.
In Mickey Mantle's case, it's like how to be like a fucking glorious young alcoholic who just wins at life. And all these things I would like, the physics of baseball, and like that's all I cared about. And then I got from there, like all I would care about is like the Rolling Stones. So it's like, oh, how did the Rolling Stones make Exile on Main Street? And you read about, oh my God, they were tax exiles. They had to go to France, so they rented this little place in France, and they recorded it at Keith Richards' house, and he would only come down at like for 1 hour a day. He was just strung out on heroin. He would come down at like 3 a.m. with all these ideas. They would make it into a song, and then I would learn, and then I'd read a book about, the Beach Boys and Brian Wilson, and like this is how I learned about life, was through the things that interested me. Nothing else stuck. Nothing else stuck. So, like, awakening to what those portals are for you. Yeah. If you didn't already awaken to them or didn't discover them as a kid or through your adulthood, like awakening to that is part of this process. And it's a sacred part of the process. Is like what helps me absorb, what helps me want to focus up and stay on a path and learn more and go deeper. And these are all like little different. Because an artist, like, it's so hard to pinpoint what an artist is because you're always at a different stage of this process. So what is an artist? Well, it's you. And it's how you see the world, and it's how you process it. Beyond that, like, it's stages in a process. And you can get very good at those. But what I would suggest first is get very good at noticing things. Yeah. Noticing things about you, about your surroundings, merge with nature in that way. Yeah. Yeah. Be the all-seeing eye.
Well, I like seeing how much is involved in like the process of a painting. Especially back then when you had to probably mix your own paints, and
they couldn't work off photographs.
There's
like,
no
think about that.
Probably erasers. You got to like do your sketch on a different thing, then poke holes, and then trace a line. Like there's like the process to get to something that you want to see and exist in the world can be a very long process.
And before film, this was something that the artists of this era were obsessed with, was capturing motion. Before film and photographs, they were obsessed even with sculptures. Something as like permanent as a sculpture. Like people were obsessed. Like the more refined the artist got, the more they were obsessed with how light hit things and how motion could be captured in a painting or a thing. And like now we've come so far in our advancements where we can actually just capture it. So now it's like, well, what are you saying with this? Right. So that's where our challenge of what our life
Well, I like what you always say is that like you're imbuing something. Like you imbue it with something. So you're like the film, every part of the process, you imbue the film with what the energy it's going to emanate.
Yes.
By what you bring to the project.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's a responsibility too strong to bear, because I'll just, and you'll just be like, stop.
Well,
Everything stops because we're not in a good place.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm not imbuing this project with this stress.
No.
So we might as well not do anything until we can get to a higher ground.
Yeah. And look.
And I thought you were crazy because I'm stubborn. I'm like, push through, push through, push through. It has to get done. And it's like, no, you can do.
They'll feel it.
You can do. But the thing is, what would take me 10 steps in a bad headspace would take me one skip if I was in a good place.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. And the funny thing is, you've probably thought I was a tyrant and crazy for being like that. Ken Burns says the same thing in this interview.
What did he say?
Well, Neil is like, so, it's probably pretty intense. You're working on 4 different projects at a time, 4 different offices, all these moving parts and people and this and that. And there's probably you probably have outbursts and get angry and yell. And he says, no, there's no yelling. There's no yelling allowed. And when we do hire somebody who's like that, they don't last very long. They don't get a lot of work from us. Basically, there's a certain way he's approaching it with a sanctity, I think, that we do. But I don't think he wants to go full Church of Chill about his shit. Because,
he has a decorum.
Yes,
the calm,
there's a
peaceful
standard
that he has for how the film comes across. He likes to have that. It's not like, we gotta get this thing out.
You would know, and you'd feel it.
If it was rushed. There's nothing rushed about Ken Burns.
No. And you know what I respect, and you know what him and I share in common, and us? All director's cuts.
Oh, yeah.
Everything you see from my body of work is a director's cut.
Yeah.
Same thing with it. That's so rare.
Mm-hmm.
That's so rare. When you have 20 plus films. No, I don't take notes. And furthermore, if the film isn't effective, it's on me.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't anyone else's fault. It's not, oh yeah, this executive said that, this fucking corporate underwriter made us take out this section or add this or whatever. No, it's on me.
Right.
If it doesn't work, it's on me. That was my vision. I thought about it a lot, and this is what I wanted to put forth.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had a hard time taking notes sometimes, very recently even.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that. And I don't know if it's a good quality or a bad quality or what, but
I think it's a good quality, because when you hear that, you feel a sense of integrity and pride that you're like, okay, this is an extension of myself, and that's what a director is supposed to do.
Well, and the fact of the matter is, the notes that could come in from someone else come from, I watched this and here was my reaction. That's so temporary. You're not going to have to live with that for fucking 10 years. You're never going to think about this again. I have to live with this. I always picture us in our 60s and 70s, 80s, 90s, doing screenings at film festivals and bringing out our old films that we made back in the 20s and 30s and let's show people how it was. And
the 20s.
I'm going to have to live with these decisions, not the motherfucker who watched it once and was like, oh, I would add that lower thirds and explain where people are. No, stop it. Fucking leave it alone. I don't want to have to, I'm going to have to fucking speak to this and these decisions. And, yeah, I would rather be responsible than anyone else. So that's kind of why we have to fund our own projects. And that's what keeps this hard and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or sometimes scale them to what we can accomplish. Because
always.
The thing is, you don't have to have the best set of paints to do a painting. You don't have to have the most expensive. I mean, it's always nice to have good quality mediums and stuff. It can make the whole process more pleasurable, but it shouldn't be what keeps you from making art. Yeah,
I mean, look, you could wait around your whole life for fucking someone for the Vatican to commission the Sistine Chapel, or you could just go do it. Just go do it. Well, that's a terrible example.
Is it?
Well, I maybe something more like the Mona Lisa. You could wait your whole life for someone to commission the Mona Lisa. Or you could just go fucking do it. And I think this applies very much to filmmaking, because I think a lot of that stuff holds people back.
Right.
Yeah. Whatever it is that's holding you back, take a look at that.
Right.
Take a look at it, because it's a part of you. I wouldn't even say it's a negative part of you. Whatever it is holding you back, it's currently a part of you. Why don't we embrace and listen to that thing?
Mm-hmm.
What is holding you back? There's something currently holding us back from something. I'm not sure what it is, but it's good to kind of take a moment and listen. And what might that be? What are we being?
Bring it out into the light.
Bring it out into the light. Yeah. This is like a lot of our conversations around having kids. Very scary conversations because they feel very consequential and big and scary, very, very scary.
Mm-hmm.
So, when we bring them out into the light, it helps.
Yeah, I don't want to be scared of anything.
No.
And I don't want to be so negative. Sometimes I'm like, I sound so negative. I don't want to sound so negative.
Well,
like you can not have a kid and not be negative about it.
What I realized, one of the things I realized about myself in like my mid-20s, and I like actively tried to change, was how good I got at being negative. And when you sound really good being negative to the point where you can crack people up and you have a quick answer for everything, that can quickly fucking form like a barnacle on your personality and then slowly take over and become your personality. So
your eat shit personality.
Yeah, exactly. Like that kind of thing. And then, yeah, sure, for lack of a better word. But yeah, like more of an eat shit fucking type of approach.
Ethos.
Yeah, where you're just like, I could take anything down. I can, and I wanted to switch that into more of a like be better at telling good stories, or when someone's being negative, seeing the positive, flipping it and being able to tell the positive side, believing in everything, saying more, I don't know, I'm here to listen, more of that type of thing, I think, is more what people want to feel from the person guiding them through a documentary or podcast experience.
Well, eat shit's for your 20s, and 30s is like, 30s is for, I don't know.
You're in your 30s. What is it for?
I think it's peace and love. But what's in your 40s? Because I feel like you were peace and love in your 30s. What did you become in your 40s?
I think the 30s is humbling and the 40s is harmonizing.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Wait, what is the 20s? Thinking.
Making a mess.
Making a mess, yeah.
And you should.
20s is for making a mess.
And you should. Like, you should fuck shit up a little bit.
Humbled by the best that you make. And then 40s is realizing that you can chant the Hare Krishna and harmonize.
And get yourself out of anything.
Get yourself out of the jam. The jam does not define you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You are more than the jam you're in.
Cool. Let's switch over to the Patreon because we have another story to tell.
Yes.
Patreon.com/churchatchill. It means the world to us when people sign up, and it would be really cool for you to join our book club or our film club or our art group that meets.
Oh, we're very behind on the book club, but I'm always down to start it up back up.
Yeah, sure. I'm trying to get people to come over to our Patreon and tell them what's good.
So much music, so many bonus podcasts, and a great community.
Yeah.
What more could you ask for?
A direct line to us if you want to talk. Cool. Peace, love, and magic, y'all.